Hi guys, and welcome back to Chengi's World. Thank you so much for joining me. Guys, if you are new to this channel, welcome. I love to see new people and have you guys on board. Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment and share this video with your friends if you like it, and come back for more. Make sure you press that little bell so that you always get notified when I upload cool videos, because you know I got this. Okay, and join this lovely family and become part of Chengi's World. And for those of you guys who are like loyal and amazing and you keep coming back, I need you to know that you are my world and I love you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of my world. You bring me so much joy. I would love to meet with you guys on Instagram and Facebook in Chengi's World, so make sure we hang out and so I can spy on you and see what you guys get up to. But I really just want to thank you for being here, and don't forget to leave a comment, etc. You know the drill. Okay, so today's video is entitled Homemade. I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up, I grew up in Zimbabwe, where everything in my family was homemade. So our school sandwiches were homemade. My mom would cut the bread. You know, we used to buy it in loaves, so it wasn't beautifully cut, you know, like the sliced loaves. It was like this big loaf. My mom would sort of cut it, and it would be jagged and not very pretty. And, you know, she'd slap some ham on there because she had a butcher's. So everything seemed to come from within our world. You know, she had the butcher's, so she would get the ham from there, and she would buy the bread, and it wasn't beautifully sliced. And, you know, if my mom had her way, she would have probably made the butter. She was such a do-it-yourself girl. She had 7 kids to feed, and I guess for her, doing it yourself, she could do more, but she was always the sort of person who would do it herself. And, you know, our veg was grown outside in our garden, because if you're from where I'm from, gardens are huge. I'm from Zimbabwe, or, you know, if you're from an African country, you know, a garden is massive. So my mom's garden had all the fruit you can imagine, all the veg. So we hardly ever went out to the shops to buy food, or you know, I hardly ever. I think if my mom could have had a cow in the back garden, she'd have milked it. So it was very few things that we would go to the shops to buy. And I don't know about you, if you were ever brought up that way. I know it, depending on the generations. I'm not young. I am nearly 40. So, guys, I've lived a little bit longer than most of you who are probably younger than me. But for those of you who are my sort of generation and slightly older, and you sort of had a similar lifestyle where everything was done at home, I would go to the shops and everything just looked so much shinier. You know, the apples in the store were just shinier, rounder. They were just prettier. And I was like, why can't we just get apples from the store? And why can't we get veg from the store? And why can't you just buy that lovely slice, you know, and buy that cute ham? Not the one from the butcher's, woman, you know. And I used to envy my friends when I'd go to their house and they would have, you know, perfect butter and perfectly sliced. Oh, it was just like so lovely. And they bought all their stuff from the butchers, or from the shops. And I was just think, why can't I be like that? And on top of that, my mom would insist on making our clothes. Okay, so, oh my gosh. So she was really good tailor. She really knew how to dress her kids, you know, looking back now. But then at that time, it just felt like, Mom, I just want to be like ordinary kids. I want to be like an ordinary girl. I want to go out to the shops and I want to buy a dress like everybody else that's in fashion. But my mom always knew how to make the best. She would buy these patterns and she would just buy the best fabric, and she would cut this fabric and it would be so beautifully tailored and the dress would be so pretty and snug. But I just wanted what everybody else had. I wanted the one from the shops, with the trim. So I would always show up to school with the dress, on civilian day. We used to call it Civis Day, and I would always show up with a dress different from everybody else. Like, I mean, growing up, it was like, if you had, it wasn't the fashion, it was classic. It was, and I'd be like, oh, and I'm sure even our uniforms, she would buy the fabric and make the uniform from home. So you can imagine growing up as a kid, I was so frustrated because everything was homemade. Our hair was done at home. If everything could be done in my mother's house, I think I've made the point. And as I grew older, I resented it. I thought, one day when I grow up, I am going to buy everything in a shop. I'm never going to have a garden and grow anything of my own. I am never going to force my kids to wear clothes that I make them. And I was so determined that beyond the walls of home, I would find my dream. I would find the dream life. And so, and my dad, we were taught to speak English very, very, very well. And, we were always taught in our minds that one day you will grow up, and when you reach a certain age, you will get on a plane and you will go to England or to the States. My family is all over the world. I have my siblings in Canada, New Guinea, the US. We are all over the show. So we were brought up to be international, because when you leave home, Zimbabwe, home, you're going to go and become something. You're going to go and create a life beyond here, beyond home. So that message that what was homemade was inferior to that which was beyond home and beyond the walls of home was very much ingrained in me growing up. It's something that the world around me made me feel like somehow I was inferior for having something homemade. Somehow I was inferior for not having that ability to go out into the shops, go out into the world and get something and bring it in and import it. And, women would go to different countries and they would buy cheap clothes and cheap fabrics and they would bring it back. But because it's from China, because it's from the US, because it's from the UK, it just carried more value. And all of those things created in my mind this limitation and limiting beliefs. And I think we're still on the topic of beliefs and limitations and mindsets. I had these limiting beliefs that if something was from within me, if something was local to me, if something was in my space and in my place, that somehow it was not of high value. And therefore I grew up, and of course you start to look for everything beyond yourself. The gifts and the talents that you do have within you, you don't value them because they're ingrown, they're homemade. I've always been a speaker. I've always been somebody who likes to share information, knowledge, and wisdom. I've always been the woman that I am, but I've never explored that dimension because I can sit there and say, Lord, what am I gonna do with my life? What am I gonna do with my life? Because it was homemade. I was born this way. It came as part of the Chengi package. So of course, because it came inherent, because it was already there, it can't possibly have been of high value. But obviously as you get older, you realize actually the fruit that you grow in your back garden is organic, it's pure. My skin was flawless. I remember someone looking at me and saying, gosh, your skin is so perfect, it's annoying, because I ate only stuff that my mom grew and from the butchers that my mom made that had no preservatives. I used soaps that my mom made, lotions my mom made. And I always had people always comment on my unique style. And that's because I didn't have the privilege of just going into shops. I had to wear what my mom gave me and try and make it special and unique and different so that I could be comfortable in it, because I was never brought up on fashionable clothes. I was brought up on what my mom made. So all of these things, as I grew older, I realized, gosh, I couldn't possibly afford a tailor like my mom in this day and age. She would cost me thousands. And I started to really begin to appreciate how I was brought up, and that actually I had the most valuable and quality life, and that now people pay thousands and thousands and thousands for what I took for granted every single day. But the reason I'm recording this video, and you're probably thinking, yeah, but what's that got to do with anything, is because I want to address that mentality in all of us that somehow is deeply seated in our subconscious mind. And that is that a man that which is local to me, the guy at work, the men at church, the guy next door, the men around me, they're not good enough. They're homemade. They're homemade. They're just homemade. How can my husband, how can the prince that I'm going to marry be already where I am? There's the scripture in Joshua, I think Joshua 1 verse 3, and I think Deuteronomy as well, where it says, wherever your feet shall tread, I will give you that land. And I was really reflecting on that and thinking, where your feet shall tread, where your feet are, where your feet stand, that's right there where you stand, you've been given the land. Where your feet are, you've been given the land. That means every resource, everything you could want, everything you could ever need is right there where you are. And I wanted to challenge us as we sort of explore, those of us who are single still waiting on our husband. I want to say to you, or our partner or our future boyfriend, I want to say to you, are you despising someone who is in front of you because he's homemade? Because he comes to the same job, and he comes to the same church, and he comes and he lives in the same neighborhood, and your dreams are beyond. And unless you bring someone from beyond, you haven't achieved. Unless you go beyond, you haven't achieved. I want to say something about homemade. Just as homemade food is so much better and homegrown stuff is so much better, I want to say something about the homemade guy. Okay, Mr. Homemade. The guy that is in your space will understand you more than the guy you're going to have to bring in and re-educate. The guy in your neighborhood will get where you're coming from so much quicker than the guy you're going to have to take from Chelsea and try and get him to understand your world. The guy that you were brought up around, the homemade guy, is always going to be, in fact, more superior to the guy that you have to import. Why? Because you have to learn a different culture. You have to adjust yourself to something beyond. But that which is in your midst understands you. That which is in your midst, so many of us are hoping to go and find a Prince Charles, some Prince Charming somewhere, and bring him into our world, or have him take us out of our world and into his. And take it from me, girls, because I got a lot of experience under my belt. Hello. Take it from me. It is a harder job than that which is in your midst. But I want to ask you a question. Why can't you see? Why can't you see? Because I was having a conversation with God. I have these conversations with him all the time. And I was like, God, I'm waiting on you. And y'all, you better, I've been waiting a long time, Lord, about whatever. It can be about anything. And God is always saying, but I'm waiting on you. I'm waiting on you. I'm waiting on you to adjust your mentality. I'm waiting on you to adjust your prejudice. I'm waiting on you to check your mindset and to decide that you will be good with what I have for you. Because what I have for you is always hidden behind your prejudice. I want to share this principle with you, and I want to leave it with you, fine, beautiful people. Every good and amazing and perfect gift is always hidden behind your prejudice, behind your blind side. That area that you won't compromise, that little area where you think, nah, man, I ain't about that life. I don't know. That mentality, that mindset. I am guilty. Okay, I'm so guilty. And was so guilty for such a long time. And I'm sharing this with you because it is also part of my journey. And a part of my journey that has yielded amazing fruit in my life. And that is the fact that I have had to be forced. And I remember a time when God was saying, yield to me. And I was thinking, all right. I'm asking for this. And God is saying yield in that direction. And I remember him saying, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. I was like, well, look, that sounds good, but can we sort out this situation first? And then I'm going to seek, sort it, seek it. So, yeah. Can you just do what you're supposed to do, God? And then I'll get around to what I'm supposed to do. But I didn't realize that what that was saying is shift your thought processes, shift yourself from your human limitations to your divine nature. Come into your divine nature. And when you enter into your divine nature, when in so seeking, you are coming and going into a divine nature, because the kingdom is a divine place. It's not a natural place. It's not, we can't just walk into the kingdom. We can't get a bus and go to the kingdom. It's a divine place. And when you spend time in your divinity rather than in your humanity, you will begin to see and perceive things so much more differently. And boy, oh boy, was that right. And the point I'm making is, when you enter your divinity, some of the things and the prejudices that you carry, some of the limitations that you carry, oh, he's homemade, I see him every day, I mean, it's just Jack. Baby girl, I remember one girl really crying tears because she had overlooked this guy in her church. They'd been in church forever together. He was homemade, you see. So a new girl comes on the scene. She's new, fresh. She comes on the scene and marries him. They have the most incredible wedding. And she just polishes this guy, and he was a diamond in the rough. And now all of a sudden that some other girls got him, he's almost like And I remember this girlfriend of mine crying her eyes out, and she's saying, I can't believe that this guy was after me, this guy really wanted me, but I just didn't see it. And now here I am, single, at his wedding, and I'm getting older, and this girl came in 6 months ago, and now she's got a wedding. She gets to be the bride. She gets to have the big day. And guess what? I have to serve at that wedding. I have to be there supporting. I have to be the guest. And she wept. And only when someone else with a fresh eye comes and takes that guy next door, when some other chick comes in and sees his value, will you start to do, oh my God, he's been under my nose all this time. And I've seen this happen so many times. And it's because of a prejudice that we have in our minds that says, but he's homemade, he's here all the time, I see him all the time, he can't possibly have value. Baby girl, I want to say something to you. Stop waiting on God, because God is waiting on you, girl. He's waiting on you to shift your perspective and re-look at what's in front of you with a new fresh pair of eyes. He's saying, look at this, look at it again, look at it again. Look at it again. We need to enter our divinity, seek the kingdom, enter our divinity and look again. Because what you're looking for is in the row in front of you. Has been showing up to the same place you're going every day, has been in the same coffee shop, is in the same building where you stand. You've been given the land. And that's my word to you, girlfriend. That is my word to you. Challenge yourself. Enter your divinity and look again, because what you're looking for is right where you are, but you just need a fresh pair of eyes. Don't wait for somebody else to come and snatch up that boy because he's too short, he's too whatever, he's around. You've become familiar with your blessing. And that's another thing, is we become familiar with our blessing. If we're so much so that we become prejudiced against it. Stop being familiar. Stop being familiar and open your eyes and look again. And that's my message to you. Just because it's homemade don't mean it's not good for you. Thank you so much for watching. I love you lots and take care of yourself. See you guys soon. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. I'll see you on Instagram and Facebook. Bye bye now.